for the OklaRoots YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we're gonna make like a quick, fun, last minute, going on vacation, need something blingy to go with it project. Today, we're making the May, I believe I'm pronouncing that correct, glasses pouch, and this comes from Miss Freckles Design. Now this little cutie patootie is so adorable. It's so much fun and it's very easily modified. It is quick. It uses scraps. It comes together fast. There's just like a couple things you sew and then it's done. So it's going to be a fun, quick tutorial. But you can see this one here, I used this very lightweight vinyl on it. I used one piece for the exterior and then one piece for the lining. I used waterproof canvas for the lining. I'm all about making this as fast as possible. So vinyl, waterproof canvas, I don't have to interface anything. If you want to use quilt cotton, you definitely can. Go ahead and do that. Just make sure you add some woven interfusing. I do suggest SoFuse. I have a link for it down below if you need it. And then we also use some Fusible fleece in here just to make it nice and cushiony. If you wanted to use a Decoville light, even a Decoville heavy, you could definitely do that. So on the back is where I decided to put my little logo. You can see on the front, we just have this nice little pointed envelope style design here. If you wanted to change the shape of this and make it a little bit more round like that, you definitely could. This pattern does call for a magnetic snap closure, and I will be using magnetic snaps, but I'll be using them as rivets. If you didn't want to use a magnetic closure, I do suggest you use cam snaps. And I think I'm going to switch up a little bit today because my magnetic snaps are rivets. So like for example, here's a snap right here, right at the top. The back of it is actually, it looks like a rivet. So I can actually put it through both layers. It doesn't have to just go through the lining. It can go through both layers. And what's nice about that is that I can wait until the whole thing is done before I even put my magnetic snaps on. I don't have to install them before I sew the whole thing. So if you're using cam snaps, which are those plastic snaps, you can do the same thing. Now, I found that I did not have to adjust this pattern at all. For example, these are the biggest pair of sunglasses I own and they fit in it just fine. However, if you needed to make it bigger or smaller, you can definitely resize this. Remember that when you're printing pattern pieces, you're always gonna print them in Adobe Acrobat Reader and you're gonna print them at 100%. That's how you make sure everything is sized correctly. Now, if you want to make this bigger, print it at 110%. You make it smaller, print it at 90%. And that's how you can adjust the size of this very easily without having to like trace and then recut. You know what I mean? It's an easy way to resize this. However, I do think the size is pretty perfect. So in today's tutorial, we're gonna use a little bit thicker vinyl and we're gonna do the two-toned version. And that's particularly great if you have a directional print or you just really wanna have like one print stand out. So I'll be using a printed vinyl that goes right over here on the flap, and then I'll be using more, basic, it's still pretty wild, but more of a basic vinyl for the body of it. And I will once again be using waterproof canvas for the lining. Thank you so much to Miss Freckles Design for allowing me to use your patterns in my tutorial. I absolutely love Miss Freckles Designs. I think I might have all of their patterns actually. I love just like the cleanness and kind of daintiness of every single pattern, and they come together beautifully. If you haven't checked out some of the other tutorials we've done with their patterns, check down below. I'll have links for them. If you're new to the OklaRoots YouTube channel, please consider clicking subscribe down below. If at any point you like this video, please give it a like. Any questions, comments, anything at all, leave them down in the comment section. Yeah, there'll probably be timestamps today. It should be quick. It should be a quick video, but I will have timestamps as necessary. They'll be down in the description of this video. They'll also be running along the bottom. If you click over here on the little arrow, that should expand the description. That's also where you're gonna find links to everything, other videos, products I'm using, the timestamps, all that stuff will be in that description box. All right, let's get started. All right, let's go over the material for today. For the exterior, the pattern does suggest either a half of a yard or a fat eighth. That's a pretty big difference. I would always go with more. You can make a couple of these. Make one for you, make one for your mom, your sister, your husband, your best friend, whoever. So I would go with a half a yard. Since we're doing two different things today, it does suggest like a quarter of a yard of each material. I'm using vinyl. I always buy my vinyl on the roll, so that's what I suggest. And then for the lining, yeah, I would suggest a half a yard of material. I'm using waterproof canvas. Because I'm using vinyl and waterproof canvas, that means I'm not using any woven interfacing. However, this is a perfect project for quilt weight cotton. Even cotton lycra would be amazing on this project. So if you're using either of those materials, you do want to add the woven interfacing. I suggest SoFuse. I will have a link down below for you if you're interested in getting some. The other interfacing the pattern requires is fusible fleece, and you don't need this much, okay? You only need about 1/4 yard of fusible fleece. This is just how mine is. I buy a lot of it because I use a lot of it. Fusible fleece is great in this pattern because it does provide a cushion for your glasses. So if you put it in your bag, your backpack, whatever, and it gets a little smushed around, it does protect it a little bit. It's not going to protect your glasses from everything, but the fusible fleece does protect it a bit. If you want to use Decovil Light or Decovil Heavy, you can definitely use that, but I would actually suggest you use that and fusible fleece. I haven't tried it, but because these cuts are smaller than the other pattern, you're not going to be sewing any of that in the seam. But I actually think combining like Decovil Light and fusible fleece will create a really beautiful structure to the case, but also a softness to protect the glasses inside. So here's all the other things we're using today. I am using magnetic snaps. However, they are rivet magnetic snaps, which means, I don't know if you can see, the end of it, instead of the magnetic snaps that have the prongs that you push open and cover up, these have a beautiful little rivet on the other side. So I can actually put this through all the layers and it looks really nice. If you're using the magnetic snaps with the prongs, just make sure you do have some extra fusible fleece on hand so you can cover the back of those. You don't want those wearing down the material. But since I'm using these, I have the rivets, and then I also have the associated dies that go with it. I have a whole video going over the rivet press here and all the dies I like, so I'll have that linked. If you didn't want to do this, I do suggest you do the plastic cam snaps. They are an affordable option, and they are going to look so good with this pattern. I have a lighter because we will be having threads, tails, knots. We're going to be cleaning things up a lot because most of the stitching is all going to be seen. There's very little stitching that's going to be hidden behind the material. So you're going to want to have a lighter to just clean up those threads. Only if you're using polyester threads, which we'll talk about. Next, I have a marking tool. So just an air erasing marking tool. A stiletto is always necessary at the sewing machine. This is a turning tool. This is going to help just turn out the corners, especially on the tip of that flap. A small 1" by 6" ruler. And then I have a small pair of snips. The needles I'm using today are Microtex 8012. The thread I'm using is this variegated, colorful thread. This is a Tex 45 weight thread. There are lots of different ways. Threads are labeled for their weight, which is their thickness. Tex 45 is a thicker thread. It doesn't work on all sewing machines, but it does work on mine. If you still want to use this type of thread, but you're a little worried about it, go with a Tex 35. I'll have links down below. And then for the bobbin thread, I have this Gutermann thread. The thing is the bobbin thread will be seen in this. So if you've got some crazy bobbin thread color and you're like, it doesn't matter, nobody sees it, it will be seen in this pattern. So if you need to change your thread in your bobbin, do it now. So let's go over all the pattern pieces. First, you're gonna have your fusible fleece or your Decovil Light, Decovil Heavy, whatever beefiness you're adding to this. This is a smaller cut than the rest of it. You see, I can just kind of place it in the center of that. It's a smaller cut, so you're gonna have one of those. And then if you're doing one piece of material for the exterior, you're gonna cut that from this main panel here. And you're also gonna use this to cut your lining. If you're doing a two-toned exterior, you're still gonna use this to cut your lining. So I only have the lining cut from that. And then because I'm doing like the two-toned exterior, I have two cuts. I have the flap and I have the body. And you see it's just gonna let's see if we can visualize this. It's gonna kind of come down like that. You see? It's gonna be adorable. Both of these cuts are vinyl. They don't need any interfacing. And then I have my bag tag, which again, I'll put on the back of the case, just like I did on the first one. And then this was a suggestion, and I will see about trying it. I had someone suggest we attach a little D-ring to this so that you can put it like a keychain on it, or you can snap on a wristlet strap. Maybe we should get some hardware to go with it. So here we go. I just grabbed a little 1/2" gold D-ring. So what we could try to do is add this to the side when we're sewing it. So if you wanted to attach a little wristlet strap, you could. We'll give it a try. I'll try it for you guys. So this is all the stuff. There's not a lot here. And if you want to make this scrappy, I mean, it's a great scrappy project. All right, so if you have to attach your woven interfacing, go ahead and do that first. And then if you're doing the two-tone like I am, let's go ahead and attach those. So you see, this is your bottom piece here. It's got like a mermaid tail. We're gonna leave that, but with the straight edge up here is where we're gonna attach the long straight edge for the flap. So this should be pretty intuitive. So we're just gonna take the flap and the body and lay them right sides together, matching up that long edge. Of course, I forgot to tell you guys that I'm using clips today, but as always, I have a big bag of clover clips here. And I'm just going to clip these together. So now let's just take this to the sewing machine and sew along this edge at a 3/8" seam allowance. Once you have these sewn together, you're going to flip the top panel up so that the seam goes behind that top panel. And if you're using any sort of ironable material, you can go ahead and iron that. You don't need to do it with vinyl though. And then once you have this pressed in place, we're going to top stitch on the flap side at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and that's just going to hold down that seam underneath this top flap. All right, so those are stitched down. I just want to show you. See, it's going to go around like that. It's going to be cute. So since we have this stitched in place, we actually have perfect line here to help us with our bag tag. So here's my bag tag, and this is just a sew on tag. And I have a little piece of double-sided tape here, and I can just kind of stick it on the back there. And I'm just completely eyeballing this, but I'm just gonna line this up about 1/4 inch below the seam right here. There we go. It's centered enough. And now I'm just gonna top stitch this on at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance around all 4 edges. And you can see I did not back stitch at the beginning and the end of this. I just leave the tails really long. And so when I go to the back, I have my bobbin thread tails that are nice and long, and I can just kind of pull on those and then find the little loop of the top thread, and it's gonna peek through the back, and then I can use my stiletto to pull back that top thread. Do this for both top thread pieces. So then I have 4 threads back here, 2 bobbin, 2 top. I'm just going to split them up 2 and 2 and triple knot this. So just 3 knots, one after another, just to hold this in place. And then just trim it down. There you go. Now you have your exterior panel completed. So if you're just using one piece of material for this, this is where you start. Now we're gonna flip our exterior panel wrong side up, and we're gonna take our fusible fleece and we're gonna center it on this panel. Now if you wanna get a ruler out and measure so it's exactly 3/8 of an inch away from each edge, you can. I just eyeball it. And then we gotta grab our iron. So just because we're using vinyl, it doesn't mean we can't fuse something on with the iron. We still can. We just have to be careful. So I'll be working on the back side of fusible fleece. If you're using quilt cotton, you actually want to work on the front side. You want to flip this over and fuse from the front, but we don't want the iron getting too close to this side of the vinyl. So we're going to leave the vinyl right side down, and the fusible fleece is wrong side up. So fusible fleece has like this rough sandpaper feel. That's actually the glue. So that glue needs to go down to the back of your material. So just keep it centered, and then just grab a scrap piece of material and cover it, and then taking your iron with a lot of heat and all the steam, just press this down. And with fusible fleece, you usually want to keep the iron moving around. You don't want it sitting in one spot for too long. All right, so now our fusible fleece is adhered to our exterior panel. So now is when you're going to mark placement for your magnetic snaps. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to install the snap that goes on the bottom here. So right here, when this is all done, it'll be the snap that goes right here. Because even though I do have these rivets, and these rivets are very smooth, very safe, I don't want them rubbing against my glasses. So if I wait till the end and I install this through the lining and the exterior, this here can possibly chip my glasses, rub against it. So I do want this hidden between the layers, but I am going to install the flap snap at the end. However, if you have the snaps with the prongs, you're going to install both of them now. So first we're going to take our exterior piece and lay it wrong side up, and then take your pattern piece and lay it over it. And on the exterior is where we're going to mark the placement for the base point. So this is the bottom point here. And then you're going to take your lining piece, and if you're installing your magnetic snap now, take your lining piece and lay your lining right side up. Take your pattern piece, lay it over it. Line up all of the edges. And then mark placement for the cap point. So that's the snap that goes on the flap right up here. Mark that placement. So if you're using the magnetic snaps with the prongs, you're going to install it right here. Put the prongs on the back. Make sure you cover it up with more material so that it doesn't rub against the exterior. Be careful. I'm going to wait on this one until the end, which is a little risky, but I think we'll be okay. However, I do want to install the bottom piece here. So for the bottom piece, I want the thicker of the two. So if you look here, I have the male end, and it is very thin, and I have the female end, and it's much thicker. I want the thicker one on the bottom and the thinner one in the flap. So I'm just gonna punch a hole where I marked. This is on my exterior material on that bottom dot. This is just a rivet press with a hole punch die on it. You can punch this hole with whatever tool you'd like. And then I'm gonna take my female magnetic snap, and I'm gonna install it from the front, from the right side of the material. Just like that, because in the end, if you have to visualize this, just try it out. You're gonna go like that, see? So I have it on the front, and then I'm gonna take one of my caps and just snap it on the back like that. Now I have my rivet press that has the die for the magnetic snaps, and since I'm working on the female snap, I want the die that looks like the male snap. So I'm just gonna pop that in there, snap side down, and press down. And there we go. Now we have that snap all ready to go, and you can see on the back it's just this really cute rivet. So I think that is going to look nice. It's gonna look like this in the end on the top, which I think will look nice. But I want it to go through both layers. I don't want it to just go through the lining layer. The lining layer is pretty thin and it will pull on it a bit. I want it to go through both of them. So I'm going to set my snaps to the side and do that in the end. All right, so if you need to install your snap, go ahead and do that on your lining. I'm waiting. Now let's take our exterior and lining and lay them right sides together all the way around. They should line up perfectly. And then I'm just gonna use these clips to hold them together. Okay, so now I'm gonna mark an opening on the bottom here, and I'm gonna leave about 3 inches opening. So I'm just centering it on this little bottom curve right here, about 2.5, maybe 2.5 inches, yeah. You don't want it to be too big. You want it to be pretty small, especially since it's on this curve. But you want the opening to be on this bottom straight-ish bit of the curve right there. So now we're gonna go to the sewing machine, and starting at one of our marks right here, we're gonna sew all the way around all of this at 3/8 of an inch, and we're gonna stop when we get to the other marks. We're gonna leave this bit right here unsewn. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end because we will be pushing everything through that hole. The hardest part about this is when to pivot at these marks right here. So to prepare yourself for that, what I suggest you do is grab a ruler and measure in 3/8 of an inch in from that corner. So I'm just gonna go like that. And this is on the wrong side of my lining or of your exterior, whichever one you feel more comfortable sewing on. So it's 3/8 of an inch in from that corner. And that way, when I see that mark, I know, okay, my needle's gonna touch this mark and I'm gonna pivot and I'm gonna start sewing along the side. So little things, you can do it on the sides as well. So look, on the sides of the little angles here, you can make marks. But the more prep work you do, the better it's gonna turn out, because getting the seam allowance over here right is gonna be helpful when constructing it on the next step. All right, now let's go to the sewing machine and sew these together. Turned out pretty good. Now the pattern suggests that you use pinking shears, which are scissors that cut little triangles. I don't have any of those, so we're just going to use regular scissors. So the first thing I want to do is I want to cut a little slit into this little corner right here on each side. And I'm getting close, about 1/8 of an inch away from the stitching, but I'm not going all the way to the stitching. I'm just getting close to it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim the seam allowance in half all the way around except for where that opening is. I'm going to leave it where the opening is, and that's going to make it easier to stitch closed in the next step. So I'm going all the way around, just trimming the seam allowance in half. So then after I have that trimmed down, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut little slits around the really curved parts. So obviously the top over here. And the slits I'm cutting are about halfway through what's left of the seam, and I'm not getting too close to the threads. The last thing I want to do is cut my stitches. And the reason you're making these slits is because you want the seam fabric to be able to fold over itself or expand. So fold over itself or expand like that whenever you turn it right side out. Because right now it's all laying flat perfectly, but when you flip it around, it's all going to go the opposite direction. And so it's going to get crowded. All right, now I'm going to gently push the whole unit through that hole. And I'm using vinyl that's not thin, so, and that hole size seems to be okay. All right, once you have it pushed out, just be very, very gentle. The thing you've got to worry about, especially if you're using vinyl, is ripping the vinyl right there at that corner. Now we can tuck it in and fix it, but it's best just not to have to do that. So now I have my turning tool, and I can take the fatter side and just kind of push it along the seams to get this nice and smooth. Now, if you are using quilt cotton, you can grab an iron and iron this nice and flat. But what I do is I go around and just kind of roll the seams. And the most important one is this one up here. So if it's not exactly the way I want it, I can kind of tuck in sections and just shape that little flap to the size I want it. So I'm just going to go around this whole unit, just kind of rolling the seam. And if I need to take this and push out the seam some more to get it really flat, then I can do that. And as I roll it, I add a clip, and that just keeps it in place. So I like roll it around like this, and then flatten it out, and then add a clip. So I'm going to do this around the entire unit. I'm going to leave this opening for now, and I will roll that under last. All right, so once you have it mostly clipped, if it's a little puffy, that's okay. We're going to still work with this some more. But now take the material from that opening and fold it under. And just kind of gently pull on the corners to straighten it out. Try to get it lined up with the rest of the seam, and just add some clips. So now we're going to sew the rest of this in sections. First section is this corner point to this corner point. So those bottom corner points, and then the opening on this bottom edge here. So I'm going to stitch 1 stitch forward, 1 stitch back, go all the way to the end, stitch 1 stitch back, 1 stitch forward. So I am back stitching, but only 1 stitch, and I'm leaving the tails long because this is going to get a little complicated. So first this edge right here, just top stitch at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so that edge is nice and smooth. Let's flip it over to the lining side. I'm going to pull the threads to the back. So both the bobbin and the top thread are on the back. Remember, I left the tails long. I'm not using any sort of automatic cutter or anything in my sewing machine to cut the threads. And that's how you keep the threads long. It's always good to clean up your threads as you go instead of waiting until the very end. It's just easy to keep it cleaner that way. So I'm going to triple knot each side. And then I'm going to cut down the threads, just leaving like 1/8 of an inch little tails next to the knot. And then I'm going to grab my lighter. And what I do is I pull the material away. So once I pull both the lining and the vinyl away, I have these little bits of thread, itty bitty little like bunny ears sticking out. And then I take my lighter and only touching the tails, not touching the material, I light it on fire, I get it heated up, it shrinks in, and then I can just pat it down with my finger, and then you don't even see it. So as long as you're careful with that, it's pretty invisible. If you find that it's turned black or the material has turned black, it's because your flame got way too close. You burned it. So I'm just going to repeat this on the other side. All right, for this next part, we're going to pull the lining side up, and we're going to fold this bottom flap, lining right sides together, right at those corners. So the corners go on the bottom, just like that. And everything should line up pretty well. So it's not going to be flat, so let's do the left side first. We're just pulling it up to line up the corners. There we go. You see we have that nice little corner there. Now if I try to flatten this out, it's not going to. And it shouldn't because it's a little case, right? It's cute. So we're going to start at the bottom corner here, pinch it, lining right sides together, just like that. And as we do this, you see this kind of poofs out. Gives it that really nice shape. All right. So that's where we're at now. Now, I'm gonna attach my D-ring here. I don't know about this, guys, but we'll give it a shot. So I'm gonna attach it on the right side here. I'm just gonna remove some clips. I'm gonna insert this in about 1/2 of an inch down from the top edge, just like that. We'll see how this works. All right, so I have that just clipped in place, and I have the raw edges are just inside the pouch. It's fine. So now the pattern has us top stitch down just these edges, but to be honest, you can probably top stitch the whole thing now, which is what I'm gonna try. Now, I wanna give you one tip. If you already installed your magnetic snap right here, it's probably going to be difficult to stitch around it without the use of a zipper foot. So if you need to put a zipper foot on your machine, that might be a little bit easier for you to get around that magnetic snap without your foot hitting it. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try to stitch it down like this. We'll see. So I'm going to go to my sewing machine with this flap in the back part facing up and the poofy part down. And I'm just going to flatten out the section I'm working on as I'm working on. So I'm not trying to flatten out the whole unit. I'm just going to flatten this part out, go around, top stitch, top stitch, top stitch. Once I get over here, I'll push this all to the other side and flatten this out and top stitch. So I'm just going to go bottom edge all the way around to the other edge. Hopefully this will work. So I did have some struggles because my vinyl, my orange vinyl down here is very, very sticky. So it was sticking to that machine. But overall, it looks pretty good. So as you might have noticed on the bottom, I did the same method of starting and stopping. So one stitch forward, one stitch back, and then continuing on and leaving the tails long. So I'm going to bring the tails to the pocket side here. You could do it on either side, honestly. You can put it on the back or on the front. It's up to you. I'm just going to pull both threads to one side, and once again I'll triple knot them, cut them, melt them, just clean them up. Alright, I mean it's a little wrinkly, but overall I think it looks pretty cute. So when we fold this down, this is what we have. Alright, so now all I have to do is install the other end of my snap and I'm done. So to do this, I'm actually going to take some sunglasses and put them in here to beef it up a bit. Because if you don't have anything in there, it's very floppy. And I'm just gonna pull this down, take a look at how I want this, make sure it looks like the way I want it to look, looks centered. All right, and that looks good. So what I can do, since I've tested the fit, I know that just centering my magnetic snap on this bottom edge is gonna be fine. So if you need to, go ahead and take your magnetic snap, if you're using one like I am or a cam snap, and just kind of center it to make sure you know where you want it. Since this is the male end, if I actually take it on the right side of my vinyl, center it where I want it, and just kind of push it down, it'll leave this little indentation right here from the male part of the snap, and that I can just mark that, and that's my point. So I'm just going to punch out the hole for that, and that is going through the exterior and the lining. And then I'll take my male snap part, and the snap part goes on the lining side, flip it over, and then the rivet part goes on the exterior side, just like that. Let me grab my rivet press and install the die that looks like the female end, and then put the male end down inside of it and press it together. There we go. And then I can just close this up. And look at that. That's adorable. Look how cute that is. I love that little Dole Whip up top right there. This is so cute. And this actually worked out really well, this little D-ring over here. But the nice thing about something like this is if you do put a wristlet strap on it or even just a keychain on it, something like that, when it's in your purse, if you're having a hard time finding it, you can just kind of dig it all out. And it's all together, your keys, your sunglasses. I love that idea. I'm really glad that I took that suggestion. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you make one of these, please tag me and let me know. I want to see it. You can also send me a picture of your version. I'm Jessica@OklaRoots.com. These are like candy sewing projects. You know what I mean? Like these could be pretty addictive to make. I think this would be a great gift if you're going into wedding season and you have a bridal party and you want to make everybody their own. You could like use a, Cricut or something to put everybody's name on the back. If you have a family vacation coming up, oh, that would be fun. Let's say you're doing like a big family vacation to like Disney or something like that. You could do like a Disney themed one and get like fun little Mickey sunglasses and stuff to put inside. Get everybody all pumped up. That would be so cute. So thank you as always to Miss Freckles Design for allowing me to use your patterns in my tutorials. I love them so much. It's like, even though it's a sunglasses case or a glasses case, it's still like so dainty and cute and just really fun to make. I know for me, when I'm going on vacation, right before I go on vacation, I'm like, I'm making a bag for everybody. Everybody's gonna have a custom backpack, custom crossbody. We're gonna have custom packing cubes. And I don't do any of that, because who has time? You have to pack for everybody and get everything ready and everything scheduled for the vacation. And then I'm always kind of bummed out, because it's like, man, I really want us to have like custom everything on our trip. So this is one of those items where it's like, you know what? I can't make all the custom bags, but I can make everybody an adorable little case, and they can put it in their bags. And I think that's wonderful. It brings a little bit more magic to an already really exciting adventure you're gonna be taking. You know what I mean? So thank you so much for sewing with me today. I hope you love this pattern. I hope you're having a great day. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Get out there and make something. Bye-bye.